August 1992. A British tabloid newspaper published a transcript of a private phone conversation. Princess Diana talking to her friend James Gilbey. Intimate, personal, embarrassing. Gilbey called Diana Squidgy 53 times during the call. Diana talked about masturbation, about hating the royal family, about feeling trapped. The conversation had been recorded on New Year's Eve 1989. Someone had intercepted Diana's mobile phone call, recorded it, kept it for 3 years, then leaked it to destroy her. But what was truly shocking wasn't the content of the conversation. It was the conspiracy behind how it was obtained and why it was released at that exact moment. To understand the Squidgygate scandal as it became known, you need to understand 1989. Diana's marriage to Charles was falling apart. Charles was openly seeing Camilla again. Diana was lonely, isolated, desperate for affection. She had become close to James Gilbey, a car dealer from a wealthy family. He was attentive, caring. He listened to Diana in a way Charles never did. Their relationship may have been romantic. It was certainly emotionally intimate. And in late 1989, they were speaking on the phone frequently. On December 31st, 1989, Diana was at Sandringham for the royal family's New Year celebration. It was a miserable time for her. Charles was cold, the Queen was distant. Diana felt like an outsider in a family that should have been hers. So she called Gilbey, late at night, from her bedroom. She thought it was private, a safe space, to be honest, to complain, to be herself without the princess mask. She was wrong. Someone was listening, recording every word. The technology at the time made intercepting mobile phone calls relatively easy. Mobile phones in 1989 were analog. They broadcast signals that anyone with a radio scanner could pick up. Hobbyists did it. Journalists did it. Intelligence services did it. The practice was legal in Britain at the time. You couldn't be prosecuted for listening to radio signals, only for using the information maliciously. So people listened. And occasionally, they caught something interesting. Or that's the official story. That explanation suggests the recording was accidental. A random eavesdropper happened to be scanning frequencies, happened to catch a call between Princess Diana and her friend, happened to record it, happened to keep the recording for 3 years, then happened to leak it at the precise moment when it would cause maximum damage to Diana. That's a lot of coincidences. Too many for most people to believe. The alternative explanation is much darker, that Diana was being deliberately surveilled, that the recording was intentional, that it was kept as insurance or blackmail, and that it was released strategically to undermine Diana at a crucial moment. August 1992 was a crucial moment. Andrew Morton's book, Diana, Her True Story, had just been published. It exposed the truth about Diana's marriage, her bulimia, her suicide attempts, Charles's affair. The book was devastating to the royal family. It made Diana sympathetic, made Charles look cruel, made the monarchy look dysfunctional. The establishment needed to fight back, needed to damage Diana's credibility, needed to make her look unstable, promiscuous, unfit. The Squidgy tapes were the perfect weapon. The tapes were offered to several newspapers in 1992. Most refused to publish. The content was too intimate, too invasive. Publishing it would be a clear violation of Diana's privacy. But one tabloid, The Sun, decided the story was too big to ignore. They published a transcript on August 24, 1992. The headline, "My Life is Torture, Diana's Sensational Tape." The subheading detailed the most salacious parts, the pet names, the sexual references, the criticism of the royal family. The public reaction was mixed. Some people were shocked by Diana's language, by her willingness to criticize the royal family, by evidence that she might be having an affair. These people saw Diana as ungrateful, inappropriate, unfit to be Princess of Wales. But many others were outraged by the invasion of privacy, by the publication of a private conversation recorded without consent, by the obvious attempt to humiliate Diana. These people saw Diana as a victim of surveillance, of media harassment, of a conspiracy to destroy her. Diana was at Balmoral Castle when the story broke, spending time with the royal family. The atmosphere was already tense because of the Morton book. When the Squidgy tapes were published, it became unbearable. Prince Philip confronted Diana, accused her of bringing shame to the family. The Queen was coldly furious. Charles was secretly pleased. This made Diana look bad, took pressure off him. Diana felt ambushed, humiliated. She had no idea the conversation had been recorded. No idea someone had kept it for years. No idea it would be used against her. Diana's first response was denial. "That's not me. The tape must be fake. Someone's fabricated this to embarrass me." But experts analysed the recording, confirmed it was genuine, confirmed it was Diana's voice. Diana then tried minimising. It was just a private conversation. Everyone says things in private they wouldn't say publicly. I was venting to a friend. But the damage was done. The content was out there. The pet names, the complaints, the sexual references, all public now, all being discussed on television, in newspapers, in living rooms across Britain. James Gilbey, Diana's friend, and the other person on the call stayed silent initially. He was married. This scandal could destroy his marriage, his business, his reputation. But eventually, he defended Diana. That conversation was private. We believed we were speaking confidentially. Whoever recorded it violated our privacy. Whoever released it is trying to hurt Diana. It's a coordinated attack. Gilbey's statement helped Diana slightly, made it clear she was a victim, but it also confirmed the call was real, that Diana had indeed said all those things. The technical questions about the recording were troubling. Experts noted anomalies. The sound quality was too good for a random interception. There was evidence of professional recording equipment. The tape showed signs of being copied multiple times. This wasn't someone accidentally overhearing a conversation. This was sophisticated surveillance. Someone with resources, with expertise, with intent. But who? And why? Three main theories emerged. First, that intelligence services were monitoring Diana. MI5 or MI6 keeping tabs on the Princess of Wales, protecting the monarchy by gathering information that could be used if Diana became a problem. This theory suggested the British establishment was behind the recording, that they had kept it as leverage, that they released it when Diana needed to be controlled. The evidence for this theory was circumstantial, but it fit the pattern. The royal family protecting itself by any means necessary. Second, that rival newspapers or private investigators were behind it. The tabloid wars in Britain were vicious. Publications would do anything for a scoop. Hire people to intercept calls, hack phones, bribe sources. Maybe someone had been monitoring Diana speculatively, hoping to catch something valuable, and they hit gold with the Gilbey call. They kept it quiet initially because the market wasn't right. But in 1992, after the Morton book, the time was perfect. This theory suggested commercial rather than political motives. But the result was the same. Diana's privacy violated for profit. Third, that someone within Diana's circle was involved. Someone who had access to her, who knew her schedule, who could plant recording devices or intercept her calls easily. This theory was the most paranoid, but also the most unsettling. It meant Diana couldn't trust anyone, that even her friends might be monitoring her, reporting on her. This theory played into Diana's existing paranoia, her feeling that she was being watched constantly. And whether it was true or not, the effect on Diana's mental health was devastating. Diana's behaviour changed after Squidgygate. She became more guarded, more suspicious. She would check rooms for recording devices. She stopped using phones unless absolutely necessary. When she did call people, she kept conversations brief, generic. assuming everything was being monitored. Her friends noticed the change. Diana was withdrawn, paranoid, constantly looking over her shoulder. The scandal had made her feel unsafe in her own life, never able to relax, never able to be honest, always performing, always aware she might be being recorded. The psychological impact was profound. Diana had already struggled with feeling watched. The paparazzi followed her constantly. The palace staff reported on her. She had no privacy in public, but she thought private conversations were safe, that she could be herself on the phone with trusted friends. Squidgygate destroyed that illusion. Nothing was private. Nowhere was safe. Even her most intimate thoughts could be recorded, shared, used against her. This realization was crushing, disorienting. It intensified Diana's depression and anxiety significantly. The palace's response to Squidgygate was revealing. They didn't defend Diana, didn't condemn the invasion of privacy, didn't call for an investigation into who recorded the call. Instead, they distanced themselves, made it clear this was Diana's problem, not theirs. The subtext was obvious. Diana had brought this on herself. By having inappropriate friendships, by criticizing the family, by not behaving properly. She deserved what happened. This lack of support confirmed what Diana already knew. She was alone. The institution wouldn't protect her, would actually use her vulnerabilities against her. Charles privately welcomed Squidgygate. It took attention away from his affair with Camilla, made Diana look improper, gave him moral high ground. Charles could point to the tapes and say, "See, she's the one having affairs. She's the one behaving inappropriately, not me." The fact that Charles had been unfaithful first, that his affair with Camilla had driven Diana to seek comfort elsewhere, that his coldness had left Diana desperate for affection, all of that was forgotten. Squidgygate reset the narrative, made Diana look like the villain, Charles like the victim. But Charles's victory was short-lived. In November 1992, just months after Squidgygate, another tape surfaced. This one featured Charles having an explicit phone conversation with Camilla. It became known as Camillagate. The content was far more sexual than the Squidgy tapes. Charles told Camilla he wanted to be her tampon. The conversation was bizarre, embarrassing, devastating to Charles's reputation. Suddenly, the moral high ground disappeared. Charles looked hypocritical, perverted, unfit to be king. The timing of Camillagate seemed suspicious, released right after Squidgygate, as if to even the score. Many believed Diana's supporters had leaked it. Retaliation for what was done to Diana. But the Camillagate tape had also been recorded in 1989, around the same time as the Squidgy call. Someone had been monitoring both Diana and Charles, recording their private conversations, keeping the tapes for years, then releasing them strategically. This suggested a larger conspiracy, someone playing both sides, using private conversations as weapons in the War of the Waleses. The release of both tapes changed British conversation about privacy. Before, the public accepted that famous people had less privacy. That came with fame. But the tapes crossed a line. These were private phone calls, intimate conversations. Recording them was legal because of technological loopholes. But it felt wrong, immoral, an invasion too far. Parliament began discussing privacy legislation, making it illegal to intercept private communications. The tapes had sparked a reckoning, but the legislation came too late for Diana. The damage was done. Her privacy had been violated. Her intimate thoughts shared with millions. Her reputation damaged. And she could never feel safe again. Every phone call was potentially monitored, every conversation potentially recorded. Diana lived the rest of her life with that knowledge, that paranoia, that fear. It affected her relationships, her mental health, her ability to trust. Squidgygate didn't just embarrass Diana, it traumatized her. James Gilbey disappeared from Diana's life after the scandal. He couldn't handle the attention, the scrutiny. His marriage ended, his business suffered. He blamed Diana for the situation. If she hadn't called him, if she hadn't complained about the royals, if she'd been more careful, But that wasn't fair. Diana had every right to private conversations. Gilbey had been happy to be her confidant when it was secret, when it gave him access to a princess, when it made him feel important. But when there were consequences, he abandoned her, like so many others in Diana's life. Diana's relationship with phones never recovered. Friends said she became afraid of them, would avoid calling people, preferred to meet in person where she felt more control. But even in-person meetings weren't safe. Diana worried about hidden microphones, recording devices. She would check hotel rooms before having conversations, ask friends to leave their phones outside. Her life became constrained by paranoia. Whether that paranoia was justified is debatable, but Squidgygate proved it wasn't entirely unfounded. Diana was being watched. Her privacy was being invaded. Her fears were based in reality. The question of who was behind the Squidgy tapes has never been definitively answered. The official explanation remains that it was a random interception by a hobbyist, that the hobbyist kept the tape, that they eventually gave it to newspapers, that there was no conspiracy, just bad luck. But this explanation satisfies almost no one. The timing was too perfect, the technical quality too good, the strategic release too calculated. Someone was behind this, someone with resources, with motives, with access. But who? The mystery remains. Some blame MI5, suggest the intelligence services were protecting the monarchy by gathering compromising information on Diana. Others blame rival newspapers, suggest it was industrial espionage in the tabloid wars. Others blame palace insiders, suggest someone within the royal household was monitoring Diana. Each theory has evidence. Each theory has problems. The truth probably involves elements of all three: a complex web of surveillance, commercial interests, political calculations, all conspiring to violate Diana's privacy. The long-term impact of Squidgygate on Diana was profound. It reinforced her belief that she was being persecuted, that powerful forces were aligned against her, that she couldn't trust anyone. This belief wasn't entirely paranoid. Someone had recorded her. Someone had kept the tape. Someone had released it to hurt her. The conspiracy was real, but the belief in conspiracy also made Diana vulnerable to actual manipulation. Like when Martin Bashir showed her fake bank statements years later. Diana believed them because she already believed she was being surveilled. Squidgygate had primed her for that deception. Diana's sons were young when Squidgygate happened. William was 10, Harry was 8. They didn't fully understand the scandal, but they saw their mother upset, humiliated, frightened. They saw how the media treated her, how her privacy was violated, how nothing she did was protected. This shaped their view of the press, their distrust of media, their determination to protect their own families. Harry especially has spoken about how his mother's treatment by the press traumatized him. Squidgygate was part of that trauma, proof that Diana was hunted, that her persecutors would stop at nothing. The tabloid that published the Squidgy tapes never apologized, never expressed regret. They defended their decision as public interest journalism. The public had a right to know about Diana's relationships, about her views on the royal family, about her state of mind. This defense ignored the massive privacy violation, ignored the lack of consent, ignored the obvious attempt to damage Diana. But it was consistent with tabloid philosophy. Anything that sells papers is justified. Any invasion that generates profit is acceptable. Diana's suffering was just content. Her humiliation was just a story. In 2011, the phone hacking scandal exploded in Britain. It was revealed that tabloid newspapers had been illegally intercepting voicemails for years. Celebrities, politicians, crime victims, even a murdered girl. The public was outraged. Newspapers closed, executives were arrested. The practice of phone interception was finally treated as the serious crime it was. But this reckoning came too late for Diana. She had been dead for 14 years. Her privacy had been violated in the 1980s and 1990s, when the practice was barely regulated, when there were no consequences. The phone hacking scandal vindicated Diana's paranoia. She had been right. Her phones were being intercepted. Her privacy was being invaded. She wasn't crazy, wasn't overreacting. She was the target of systematic surveillance. Everything she feared was happening. The scandal also revealed how widespread the practice was. Diana wasn't special. Thousands of people had their privacy violated. But Diana was the most famous victim, the one whose suffering was most public, the one who paid the highest price. Looking back, Squidgygate represents a turning point in Diana's relationship with the media and the establishment. Before, she had tried to work within the system, to manage her image, to find accommodation with the press. After Squidgygate, Diana became more combative, more willing to break rules, more determined to control her own narrative. The Morton book, the Panorama interview, the public battles with Charles. All of these came after Squidgygate. Diana had learned she would be attacked anyway, so she decided to attack back. The scandal radicalized her. The Squidgy tapes remain available online. Anyone can listen to them. Hear Diana's voice, her vulnerability, her pain, her attempts at humor and connection. It's an intimate portrait of a woman in crisis, trying to maintain sanity in an impossible situation. But it's also a profound violation. These words were never meant for public consumption. This conversation was private. Listening to it feels voyeuristic, wrong, like reading someone's diary without permission. But millions have listened. The violation continues decades later. Diana's privacy still being invaded, still being monetized, still being consumed. Diana never spoke publicly about Squidgygate in detail. She acknowledged it happened, expressed hurt about the invasion of privacy, but she didn't explain the relationship with Gilbey, didn't defend the content, didn't give the press more ammunition. This silence was strategic. Any statement would have kept the story alive, would have invited more scrutiny, more questions. Diana had learned that with scandals, the best response was often silence. Let it fade, move on, don't feed the beast. But privately, the scandal devastated her, made her feel exposed, vulnerable, violated. Friends said Diana cried for days after Squidgygate broke. She felt humiliated, betrayed. She worried about what William and Harry would think, what the Queen thought, what history would remember. She worried the tapes would define her, that she would forever be the princess who said inappropriate things on the phone. Diana was right to worry. Squidgygate remains one of the most famous scandals of her life. Mentioned in every biography, every documentary, every analysis of her relationship with the media. The violation is permanent, the damage lasting. From Diana's conversation with her therapist, weeks after Squidgygate, I feel like I'm never safe. Not in public, not in private, not anywhere. Someone recorded my phone call, kept it for years, then released it to hurt me. Who does that? Who listens to a private conversation and thinks that's acceptable? I know I said things I shouldn't have. I was venting. I was upset. I thought I was talking to a friend in confidence. But even if I said inappropriate things, does that justify the violation? Does that make it okay to record me without consent? To publish my private thoughts? To humiliate me publicly? I don't think I can ever feel safe again. Every conversation might be recorded. Every private moment might become public. How do you live like that? How do you maintain sanity when nothing is private? When your most vulnerable moments are turned into entertainment? I feel like an animal in a zoo, watched constantly, never allowed dignity, never allowed humanity. Just a thing to be studied, consumed, judged. I don't know how much more I can take. The final image of the Squidgygate story isn't from 1992. It's from 1997. Diana's funeral. Millions mourning. The world finally recognizing what was done to her. The harassment, the invasion, the cruelty. Some of the same tabloids that published the Squidgy tapes now published tearful tributes, called Diana an angel, mourned her loss. The hypocrisy was stunning. But Diana wasn't there to see it, wasn't there to feel vindicated. She was dead, killed in a car crash while being chased by photographers. The same media culture that violated her privacy in Squidgygate killed her 5 years later. The violation came full circle, and Diana paid the ultimate price for being famous, for being watched, for never being allowed to be private, for being hunted until there was nowhere left to run.